All right, man. On today's episode of playing hooky in the workshop, it's like 10:30 in the morning right now. I got a wide open schedule. I'm just sitting there twiddling my fingers, and yeah, I got things I could do, but this is more fun. So, what I did is I've made some jigs for my plasma cutter to try to make some smoother, more consistent cuts. It'll give me a straight edge to cut against, but also a lip to write on that keeps the torch at the right height. So what I did is I just made a few of these. This is short. I cut it off of the board that I put it on, but you see the beveled edge right there. I have another piece that I cut it off of that's about that long. And then I've got, back here in the corner, I've got one that's about 5 feet long. It gives me a nice long cutting edge. And I made that one to be able to cut this tabletop, or the sheet metal that's gonna be my tabletop. Anyways, so what I'm doing is I'm just using this vice grip clamp and lining it up on here. And I'm still getting used to what the appropriate distance is. So I'm gonna take my torch. Right in the middle is a little crosshairs, but I'm gonna try to line the torch, setting on the rest, up with my mark that I made. Looks to be about in the center of the torch. And I'm not trying to be that precise, but I am curious how precise I can try to be, how much precision is possible. And these things are supposed to be capable of pretty extreme precision. So we're just messing around. Anyways, I've got all 4 sides of the frame that's going to go immediately under the top. I've got them cut and beveled to be able to go together. You can see this piece right here. It's a little ugly, but just 1.5 by 1.5 angle iron. And I cut a bevel in the end so that they can, or a taper in the end so that they can go together. What this piece is I want to make sure that my table can support as much weight as possible while staying as flat as possible. And I don't like how much space there is unsupported in the middle of the table. It's not a huge table, so I'm going to throw one support directly across the middle. So I'm cutting it direct, the full width of these 2 bars here, and then I'm gonna notch it so it'll go into the angle iron pretty nicely. Anyways, I'm gonna make some adjustments to my camera so that you can see at least what my cuts are looking like these days. And I'm gonna move some other more sensitive stuff out of the way because I learned with my phone's screen protector yesterday that this stuff, the sparks and molten metal splatters, and after it falls, I don't have a good method of catching that splatter at the moment. I've seen a lot of different designs, but right now I don't, so I need to be extra careful. So I'm just going to clear some spots. I've got my fire extinguisher over here hanging right there on the wall just in case. Okay, man, sorry about the glare in the corner on the left side. It is, I've got a lamp over there to give me a little extra light because it's a dim day and I want to be able to see well. So also I'm learning that better lighting on my project helps me see through my welding hood also. So if we can work with that, let's get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to strike an arc. I figured out what the 2T and 4T is on my plasma cutter. 2T essentially makes it so that if I press and hold, it continues making an arc and running air. And when I let go, the electricity stops. 4T is a double press. You press it once to start everything. Here you can hear it. And then you press it again to stop it. And the air continues on to cool it off after it's done for a moment, and I have it set to max to really help preserve my consumables. but notice there's the air sound and then there's a buzzing coming from the cutter. Here, we'll turn it on again. Now, when I press it again, listen for the cutout of the plasma cutter. Good timing for the air compressor to come on. Anyways, I'm gonna make a cut. Hopefully you get to see this. So I'm gonna strike an arc and then just go across about that speed, I think. Oh, also, one thing that I just did to make this move a lot smoother, and it feels really nice, is I've got this wax, this paste that I use on my woodworking tool surfaces to allow the wood to slide smoothly. I'll show you. It's just this Johnson's paste wax. I took a little bit, rubbed it there, and rubbed it on this surface also, so that the ceramic cover on this might slide a little smoother. We'll see how well it works. Okay, that worked a lot better. I moved too fast on the first pass, so I made a second pass. Now, while this is cooling off, I'm gonna set my torch down, because that is such a fast cut. And I'm gonna roll my angle iron so I can work on the other one flatly. And I'll be a little more slow on the other one. I'm still getting a feel for this. Okay, we're gonna turn my angle iron. I have it supported on a 4x4 on the other end. Okay, clamp this down, nice and snug. Now I'm gonna hold this piece so it doesn't fall off, although the dross on the bottom tends to hold it in place until I knock it off most of the time. But the better I get, the less that dross is holding it on. So I need to be probably getting used to holding it in place by hand. I'm just lining everything up again. There it is, centered. Notice my wood has a little scorch on the edge there, just a little bit, but it burns so slowly, and the top edge really maintains its shape pretty well. So I can take scrap wood and I can make little jigs, I think, straight edges. And that wax worked really nice. I had one little hang up right here, but I think it got caught on something on the edge, but it worked fine. And really, if I hadn't hung out there and made a second pass, it would have been a lot smoother. Anyways, I'm gonna line this up, clamp it in place, and make my second cut. And then this guy should be fine, and then I can measure for my notches, which I will also do with the plasma cutter because it's ridiculously fast. Best cut ever, but not horrible either. You've got a nice smooth cut there, a little bit of dross to knock off on the top, a little bit of dross to knock off on the bottom, but really much less than I've been experiencing so far. I'm pretty happy with that. Just a little bit of cleanup and she'll be good. I'll hit it with the grinder. All right, man, all I'm doing here is just squaring up my frame. I've taken all four corners and squared it up here where my pieces are going to go together. There is a bit of a gap, but that's okay on metal because I'll just fill it with when I weld. These are just my square magnets, getting them out of the way. What I'm going to do is measure my halfway point. Let's see, I am 43¼ inches, so 21, we'll mark that at about just over 21½ for my halfway point. So I'm going to use my soapstone pencil to just mark a rough halfway point right about here. Now we'll come up here and mark this one about the same, about the same place. So I've got a mark on either side, roughly correlating to the center of the table. What I'm gonna do, I don't need that much support, so I'm gonna cut it to length so that it can simply sit inside. And I will weld it in there to keep it in place. I could notch this, but I think that's excessive for the nature of this. It's not, doesn't have to be the strongest thing in the world, and it'll be plenty strong for what I'm going to use this small table for. So I'm not going to bother with notching. I do want to try to center it as much as possible. And this is a little long. I'm cutting some excessive material off of here, but I changed my mind after I cut it off. So that means I'll have a 3-inch piece of scrap that I can practice welding on or something. So I'm gonna just take this whole thing off all the way around. With the plasma cutter, just like we did with the other. So there we go. So I'm just gonna make some marks. I've got from the back side there, but I'm not gonna cut on the back side where I marked it. I'm gonna cut on the front side. So I'm just lining up I'm gonna make a soapstone line right there. Now I'm gonna lift, turn, and make another soapstone line. Still getting used to how much offset I need on my straight edge for this stuff. That's a little off, but I'll cut on the left side of that line. Honestly, my plasma cuts aren't that accurate anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem. I'll fasten this down, put my gloves back on, drop my hood, and we'll cut this guy off. There we go. Ready to go. Cut number 1 coming right up. I'm going to change it back to 2T because I don't like that always on. I want it to shut off when I let off the handle. I don't mind press to play. that. Move my temporary vise location. Put this end piece back in, right where I intend that to go. Right there-ish. We'll square it up later. I'm just checking. I'm trying not to move anything around too much so that I can check for fitment. And the nice thing is welding's a lot more forgiving. So I'm going to adjust my camera. Okay, so now we have a nice let's see, how do I like it the most? Nice center line, just like that, and there's not a huge gap, so that'll go right there like that. And then what I'm gonna do now, before I really clean everything up, is I'm gonna punch some holes, almost like I want to put bolts through it, but those holes will be for attaching it to the tabletop. Technique that I learned about, forget what it's called, but it essentially is just as strong, if not just a little stronger, than bolting things, and you don't need bolts, you just do the hole. So I might run some bits of weld along some places, but the majority of them I think I'll do 4 holes on this guy. We'll space them out around. So I'm going to clean up my space and get on that.